Boy, I have had quite an interesting day. Huh. Yes, as the title said, I got to meet some aliens, but in order to explain that, I gotta explain some other stuff first. I'm sure that you've heard about the recent superwave controversy on YouTube. It's related, let me explain. Yeah, so recently there was a DIY YouTuber. A guy, you know, he built this superwave machine, a machine that combined every known type of wave to man. UV waves, microwaves, radio waves, gamma waves, fired it into space, and it ended up acting like an EMP over his whole city, pretty much. There was a small controversy that came about because the two officers that showed up and, gunned him down to UMP 45, they didn't seem to be wearing the standard issue police uniform, and there was some controversy about who exactly they were, and some conspiracy theories came about, I heard. Anyways, I got to meet them. Like I said, I got to meet some aliens too, but this is important explanation to explain. I got to meet the two that shot that YouTuber. In defense of our country, of course. Because he was firing off, and that could literally melt the ozone. Like I said, I got to meet them, and basically they managed to give their side of the story and explained everything. So pretty much, this is their side of the story. And then I'll get into how I got to meet these aliens. Just give me A to B to C, man. Come on. Anyways, so they explained these two. Their names are Miss Regent and Agent 31, by the way. Uh, they said that after they got this YouTuber down, the superwave beam was already making its way across space. They were able to deactivate the machine, but the beam was already fired off, and those wild waves are already in motion. Now, this is according to them. Now, this is what they say. The beam bounced off an asteroid covered in this purple goo. Once it went into space. And this wasn't any ordinary purple goo. This was a fucked up parasitic living entity type of goo. And it felt and wondered, in its own language, not ours, what kind of insane technologically advanced species would send out a signal wave like that. So of its own curiosity, the purple people eater goo viscerated out a tendril of its amalgam alien flesh and pushed itself off its meteoroid and flung itself towards Earth. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Agent 31 and Miss Regent sat near a restaurant. Miss Regent was on her phone. She got a notice. Unknown anomalous object inbound. Think that's related to the superwave? Agent, at the time, Agent 31 asked. No, Miss Regent told him. A purple goo looking like a Frankenstein of never before seen animals stitched together into a completely new one came flying out of the sky and crashed directly into the restaurant. It was really loud. It crashed into a car also and exploded a bunch of glass everywhere. The creature immediately started trying to introduce itself, but it merely sounded like warped dark screaming to our uneducated human ears. Miss Regent decided to call in a cleanup crew at a time, and both her and Agent 31 went out of the store to the parking lot in the street and investigated the crater that looked like the iconic crater, the Yamcha crater from DBZ. They gazed into the pool of wiggling worm cords and blood chunks and listened to its howls. They couldn't tell the creature was merely saying, "Greetings, I come in peace, please show me around." And so Miss Regent wanted to shoot it. Uh, Agent 31 tried, but his gun was empty from killing the random YouTuber before. He didn't have any more bullets for the alien monster. There's a moral in there somewhere. So the duo waited for another surveillance van to pull up, and a group of numbered agents got out, each armed with a submachine gun. They looked into the crater in silence, except the screaming, of course, from the creature. Go on, Miss Regent pointed into the hole of writhing organs. Get in. But none of the agents really wanted to. It's your job, Miss Regent reassured them. Clean it up. Clean it up, janitor. Clean it up. Put it in the van, let's go. And the bravest and stupidest of the numbered agents went down into the hole and grabbed at the arm of the wiggly, drippy alien flesh. Put your various appendages behind your center of mass, the lowest ranking numbered agent commanded. The alien purple people eater goo complied, or at least didn't resist being moved around. It went with the flow, letting its appendages, pair by pair, be cuffed by the agent. It was a massage for the creature. The other numbered agents were a bit emboldened now. They managed to lift it with quite some effort, and drag it into the van, this mysterious alien creature. They closed the back door. Miss Regent, Agent 31, got in. We'll take care of it from here, and drove it back to the secret underground lab, the Illuminati base. So, they get out. Agent 31 steps out to an awaiting crew of free scientists in lab coats, one of which was holding his wheelbarrow. Duo opened the back door of the van. Agent 31 grabbed the chain of cuffs bonding this fucking thing, and heaved the wet meat mass into the wheelbarrow. Trio scientists, led by Miss Regent and Agent 31, they hauled this pile of gore to the elevator, and all these characters stood around in this elevator standing over what looked like a butcher shop hit by a tornado while thrown into a fucking bin. Anyways, one of the scientists asked what it was, and I don't know. Miss Regent said, I don't know, just kill it. They rode the elevator down to the underground lab section of the base, and the scientists pushed this wheelbarrow down a sterile, vacant, mostly white hospital-like hall. Miss Regent and Agent 31 went the other direction to their usual spot, the CCTV control room. They made a stop at the employee lounge for some donuts. The head scientist separated off from the trio after the colleague got the wheelbarrow into the experimental laser testing room. "Excuse me, boss," head scientist asked. "I have to tell you, another anomalous solar object seems to be heading our way." "Yeah?" Miss Regent asked. "Another parasite thing?" No, the scientist explained. This anomaly was detected. This anomaly was detected as something made of pure plasma. It's nothing like this first parasitic entity that arrived. Like a tiny sun changed direction and started approaching us at high speed. It doesn't have as strong a heat signature as a sun. It seemed to change course after being hit by that superwave. So Miss Regent asked this scientist, what the fuck is up with that superwave? Why is it summoning creatures from outer space? The scientist explained, well, it's mostly dissipated now. It's going through empty space for a while in its trajectory. Miss Regent got bored with the scientist. She went back to her office. Is the creature, the flesh thing, is it still scheduled for later execution or not? That's all she cared about. The operation will likely go on without a hitch. It should be an easy procedure, a complete success. That's what the scientist told her. Again, this is their story. This is all according to them. I'm not saying what's true or not. Loud screaming was suddenly heard from the experimental laser testing room. According to Miss Regent. "I'm going to check on that." Lead scientist ran off. Miss Regent went into the CCTV control room. She sat down at her desk with a box of donuts and reclined in her swivel chair and kicked up her feet on the desk. She switched on her monitor screen to watch the laser room execution. Unfortunately, it seemed the creature wasn't taking kindly to the operation and had broken apart with ease the various cuffs binding it together. At some point during the altercation and provocation, it had become an aggressive pile of meat. A tendril of spiky teeth, like thorn made of bone, grabbed the scientist and immediately upon gripping the scientist with any series of force, absolutely tore them to shreds and crushed them, killing them instantly. The other scientists tried getting the laser activated, but something interesting happened. The mass of flesh, when it ate the dead scientist's corpse, it grew in size, and more flesh appendages sprung out from it, firing off like harpoons into the wall and ceiling, and it used these spears lodged in the walls to pull itself around and crawl across the room. The two remaining scientists were made a bit on edge by this unexpected rambunctious behavior. "And what the fuck is it doing?" one scientist asked. The creature fired off another bone spear from its fleshy mass and pierced right through the scientists, killing them, dragging the body back to its melting pot of flesh. The lead scientist decided the situation warranted getting some outside advice and left the laser testing room. Watching the CCTV, Miss Regent noted that the odd creature was again increasing significantly in mass after eating the two corpses. One rope of meat wormed towards the lab door, grabbed the wall, and dragged itself slowly towards the hall. Agent 31 fired his Sig Sauer 9mm MI-8X pistol and unloaded his clip into the crawling arm coming out of the testing chamber. Yeah, that ain't doing shit to it, Agent 31 realized. And it really wasn't. The bullets hit it, caused small chunks to fly, and blood splattered upon the ceiling, but it just made it scream a little before it continued on unperturbed otherwise. Alright, the main issue I see here, Miss Regent noted, assessing the situation. The elevator's over here there, and the flesh monster is also over there. If we can get across the arm of meat, we can get to the elevator and get out. You go first. She pushed the lead scientist ahead down the hall, and the lead scientist tried to be brave. Sprinting down the hall, they tried to jump the flesh pooling out of the doorway to the testing chamber, and of course a spike of bone fired out at them, stabbing them in the head and killed them instantly. Then the pool of meat dragged the corpse into itself and began to expand once more. Alright, new plan. Miss Regent turned to Agent 38. She handed him a Nerf N-Strike Maverick revolver. This is an experimental superweapon. Try it on the monster. It should kill it, and I'll be right behind you. She reassured him. Agent 31 went up to the mass of flesh. Miss Regent stood 2 meters behind him. You got this, pal. just don't miss. Agent 31 aimed true, and he hit the creature dead on with the Nerf Magnum. The issue was, it actually was just a regular Nerf gun, and as it hit the monster, another bone smear fired out at Agent 31. Miss Regent ran for it while the creature was distracted, ripping apart the screaming agent. She hopped the flesh chunk and ran down to the elevator, got in, pressed a button to the garage floor. Miss Regent exited the elevator doors and dusted herself off. Another mission survived via pure skill and cleverness. She looked at her phone. She was going to browse Reddit, but got a notification. Unknown anomalous object inbound. She went out to her van and got ready to head to the presumed landing location for the nearing celestial object. Meanwhile, this is where it gets interesting. At just that same time, near a Pennsylvania highway, on a summer midnight at a random gas station, there was, in fact, an alien. A short, colorful-looking DMT jester. Standing across from this gas station clerk, who was a woman, they were wearing the gas station clerk looked at this fucking alien that was basically a DMT jester elf in a brightly colored jester outfit. And this alien was bioluminescent. A DMT machine elf. They grabbed a slushie and headed out the store. The clerk just watched in silence, not knowing how to respond. "My name is Pompson," the alien told the clerk. "Good to meet you." And the bioluminescent, colorfully glowing woman lit up the road better than the street lamps as she skipped into town. Cars slowed down and parked so the passerbys could watch the strange entities dance her way down the highway. You probably saw some videos on this. I mean, it made some, it was making the rounds. She started to bounce higher and higher off the ground of each skip, and police calls were made to report a clown-looking woman hovering into town. She got close to the town square. A random civilian saw her, hovering between the power lines. The random civilian began praying or something stupid. "Please tell us what you want. We will give you anything." Stupid shit like that. And Pompson told him, "Bro, I don't want anything from you. Quit making it weird. What, a tourist come to your city, you're gonna get in their face and be like, 'What you doing here? What you want?' Damn. I got the signal. I got the super wave. I saw the cool wave beam and wanted to check it out. So chill, bro. Here, check this out. Look what I can do." And Pompson threw a handful of candy bars in the face of the civilian. Chocolate bars, peppermints, gumdrops, Twizzlers, sugar cubes, Skittles flew from her hand into the face of the civilian. It caused him to stumble back and fall into the ground. And Pompson just flew off. More people became willing to approach the machine elf. A crowd started to gather in town square. Police cars started to pull up, attempting to secure a perimeter. People started asking a bunch of stuff, shouting out their questions to the floating jester in the middle of town square. "What are you? Where did you come from? Can you do this? Can you do that?" People took photos, videos, live streamed out to the world. Watching one of the live streams was Miss Regent, the manager, driving down the road now towards the town square. Pompson, on the live stream, explained, "I can do anything. I can fly. I can summon anything I want at will. I can fire electricity from my hands and lasers from my eyes. I am the coolest nigga you'd ever meet. I am the ruler of everything." But Miss Regent took offense to that. "I'm the fucking ruler of everything, you dumb bitch," she said. And Miss Regent pulled over her car to the side of the road about a football field's distance away from Pompson and the crowd around town square. "The report said you were a plasma entity, huh?" Miss Regent said to herself as she rummaged through a metal crate box in the back of her van. "Well, how about we try a fucking plasma rifle and see what happens?" So she pulled out a green, sharp, jagged, anti-tank rifle-sized gun, and she lined up her shot using a trash can to place the heavy weapon down on. She took aim through the scope, aiming for a headshot. Pompson was throwing candy canes and glitter and cookies into the crowd, spawning candy from fit air. Everyone was cheering, jumping, hollering. Police were trying to separate the crowd and push them away from this jester. Handing out food, free food. "You'll fuck up the local grocery economic market logistics, you fucking dumb cunt." Miss Regent fired off that plasma rifle beam. Boom! And the green line, like a high-powered laser pointer, went right through everything in a straight line. It went through Pompson's head and left a perfect hole right through her face. And Pompson fell from the sky and landed on the ground with a thud. The crowd went into a panic, and most scattered off and screamed. "She was a phony anyways," Miss Regent yelled at the fleeing civilians, dispersing from the crowd. "She says she's some kind of ruler of everything, but she doesn't understand the implications of what she does. She's gonna run all the big food companies out of business. She can't even dodge a plasma rifle." But nobody's really listening to her except one. "Owie zowie," Pompson said, standing up, unfazed, dusting herself off. "Who did that? Any of you want to try that again, or are you just going to blast my head off and run away before I can retaliate?" Miss Regent didn't expect the entity, Pompson, to survive. As it is, Pompson was perfectly fine, So, deciding to call it a day, Miss Regent ran back to her van and sped off, peeling out, hitting the curb of the sidewalk as she sped towards the highway. But Pomsen was no slouch. She jumped back up into the sky and started flying down the road after Miss Regent. Pomsen was trailing her at a pace just slightly slower than Miss Regent's reckless driving of 70 miles per hour. Pomsen flew up next to the window of the van. "Sup?" Pomsen asked. "You got a plan for, like, where you're going, or what?" Miss Regent, didn't really know what to say back. "Get off my planet," she said. "Oh, it's your planet? Well, it sucks." And Pomsen took a firework out from her sleeve. She lit the fuse of a line of fire she sprayed out from her fingertips. She threw it in through the driver's side window of the car. Miss Regent tried to grab the firework and toss it back out, but it was already going off. Crackles and sparks of fire and loud bangs, mini explosions filled up the van. Smoke filled up the place. The road became hard to see. Pomsen laughed as the van swerved across the lanes of the currently inactive highway. Pomsen started changing the highway signs from stuff like Exit 22 to stuff like, "You're fucked," and "You're a fucking dead, kiddo." Miss Regent, though, much to her credit, was able to maintain her composure, and she steadied herself and managed to take the correct exit back to the hidden underground base. Pomsen stayed close behind her, trailing after her through the backwoods dirt road, all the way back to the concrete administrative building. Miss Regent was desperately trying to call up HQ on her phone, but there wasn't any time really to explain the situation anyways. She pulled up with a screech, hitting the brakes right outside the what's it called? Below ground garage entrance. Miss Regent got out the van, looked back to see Pomsen still floating towards her at a distance. Pomsen waved. Miss Regent had a plan, though. She was going to try to make it back to the lab and grab a doomsday device, didn't matter which one, and activate it to annihilate the whole planet. This was a calculated risk. After all, she didn't want the world falling into the hands of a hostile entity like Pomsen. So she ran down the parking lot ramp into the underground lot. She made her way as fast as she could, sprinting towards the elevator across the empty liminal space. She pressed repeatedly the elevator call button, which didn't make it go any faster. Pomsen was now entering the underground lot. Her voice echoed across the vacant area. "Hey, dumbbell, I'm here to fuck you up," Pomsen said. "You're about to get fucked up by a clown." Miss Regent hopped the elevator. No. Miss Regent hoped the elevator. I misspoke. Miss Regent hoped the elevator would arrive soon. Pomsen was inspecting the lot, and soon enough she'd find her. Miss Regent suddenly wondered, who could have used the elevator since she rode it last? It couldn't have been called back down to the lab. Unless... And as the elevator doors opened, the flesh monster came roaring out, falling to its side as soon as the door opened. Miss Regent screamed, fell backward, and crawled away from the now open elevator. "There you are," Pomsen said, finding Miss Regent prone. "Oh, who's this?" she asked, regarding the giant pool of bloody flesh. The bloody goo rumbled back some guttural scream to Pomsen. "Huh?" Pomsen asked. "Is that so?" The flesh pile responded back with more bubbly groaning noises. "Really?" Pomsen listened intently to the story of the meat. "Wow. Well, that's rough, man. Listen, I'll go talk to them about it." Pomsen walked over to the still prone Miss Regent. "This creature says you were a jerk to it. It showed up in peace, actively trying to communicate, and you started firing lasers at it. Is that true?" "No," Miss Regent lied. "You did the exact same thing to me," Pomsen said. "Listen, quit being a jerk to random space visitors you just met, okay? We all seem to have gotten off on the wrong foot. How about we all just start over, introduce ourselves, try to get along?" Pomsen reached out her hand and helped up Miss Regent. Then they all had a good laugh about the ordeal and all went out for pizza and donuts. In the end, perhaps the real ruler of everything was all the friends we made along the way. Anyways, I got to meet them at the, like I said, outside the mall, the whole gang. It was interesting to meet them. And I just wanted to post this video to help clear up that controversy regarding the, the Superwave incident.